I'm going to do something different. I was just talking about Cuchullin's son there to Stephen and them, and I was just saying that Des Waters in Timon, he wrote the alternative to Cuchullin. He wrote, while Cuchullin was about the greatest hurler of all times, he decided he wrote about the worst one he ever saw, and this is the way it goes, if I can remember it now. Ned Murphy's son Paddy from Ballinallee. He's by far the worst hurler you're likely to see. He's a big awkward gorsoon and he's always in trouble. And when he holds a hurl, it's the same as a shovel. Now his swings are ferocious and they're never connected, and it's the mercy of God he'd seldom selected. Mid shouts to lie down and go home to your tay, but our Pat with gusto just miters away. And he never lost hope or give up in despair, for he fancied one day he'd be crowned an all-star. And in the long winter nights as he lay in the dark, he'd see himself out on the sodden Crow Park. And he'd score from all angles and do mighty work, and mark the best players from Galway, Kilkenny, Tipclare and Cork. He'd be hailed the hero, the best of the batch, and appear on TV as the man of the match. But alas, poor Paddy never played in Crow Park. He was killed one wet night as he walked home in the dark. And the driver was blameless, was an oncoming car. He couldn't see Paddy, he was blinded by glare. And in turned his remains on a cold winter's day, and they covered him up in a mound of brown clay. But Paddy wasn't there, he was floating on high to his heavenly home in the faraway sky. And he was bursting with joy and feeling very proud as he floated along on his heavenly cloud. For he heard as he left that the man in the car had been recently selected as a hurling all-star. And when he reached the golden gates, he heard great commotion. Sure, the sounds inside, they were just like waves of the ocean. And the two gates were locked, and a message hung there that said, hurling game on, we're closed for an hour. Now in Heaven's Crow Park, there was a great game and flow between the boys from above and the boys from below. And the boys from above were 10 points in arrears, and on top of all that, they were short of 4 players. The two rackers are out in ring and Mackie as well, and it didn't look good for the Batons of hell. And they were carrying Peter, 'twas the same every day, for the good Lord insisted that Peter should play. And the boss man, Tough Barry, was fit to be tied as another ball sailed 40 yards wide. He roared at Peter, get back to your gate and get the hell out of here before it's too late. Get off the field so you haven't a clue, and stick to something that you're able to do. See, you're rooting, you're poking and you're fouling as well. If you're left on the field, we'd be hammered to hell. So off with you now and get back to your work, and keep your eyes peeled for a young lad from Cork. There's a couple down there and they're not at all well, and we need them real bad if we're going to bait hell. Well, Peter slunk off with a pout on his puss, intent on creating one heck of a fuss. For to play senior hurling was always his dream, and now he'd been dropped from the starting 15. Well, he sulked in his blocks like a brat had been bowled, although he was over 2,000 years old. And he schemed up a plan to get his own back on the wily Tough Barry, who gave him the sack. Then he sniggered with glee and he guffawed out loud as he saw the bold Paddy outside on the cloud. I'll pretend he's a Cork man, I'll give him a pass. And he smiled like a pup in the back row mass. Ah, come in, darling Paddy, you're welcome, me lad. There's a hurling game on, and we need you real bad. So we're hurling these devils and they're baiting the sound. So tug yourself out and turn the game round. Here's a pass for Tough Barry. Here's our Barry store. And there's a hurl that'll help you to score. Well, Paddy needed no coax and he was gone in a flash. In the midst of the fray and the flash of the ash, he struck the first ball as it came from the sky, and it sailed to the net in the blink of an eye. The second was handy, a pass from Jack Lynch, 14 yards out, sure a goal was a cinch. And the third from the free swung the game in the favour, and the roar from the crowd was sweet music to savour. And from there to the end was a Calia's skill, as he dodged and soloed and scored goals at his will. Now his hurling was magic, that all did remark, and then 15 young devils, they were bet off the park. And the cheering was mighty, Tommy Doyle shook his hand, as did Padge Keogh and the local brass band. Jack Lynch sang the banks, Mick Mackey joined in, and Kilkenny's Jim Langton embraced Christy Ring. And the boys from Killan cheered him up shoulder high, and Tylerone's Loudy Mar was applauding close by. And a host of great players called his name as he's passed. B. Japers' Pat, I'm an all-star at last.